Testing. Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, March 30, 2026. We're not usually here on a Monday morning, and yet there is no hurricane coming. And when you see our special press briefing and you see Minister Samuda here, there's no issue there. It's actually very good news that we bring this time on a special press briefing. And I have to acknowledge a number of persons who are here. Starting with the Honourable Floyd Green, our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, and of course doing a wonderful job as the Leader of Government Business in the House. We also have the Honourable Matthew Samuda, our Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change, who is doing brilliant things in his portfolio. We have Senator Marlon Morgan, our Parliamentary Secretary in the best ministry, the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. With us today we also have Mr. Wayne Robertson, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change. We also have Dr. Wayne Henry, the Director General of PIOJ, but he's here in his capacity as Chairman of JISTV. We also have Mr. Omar Sweeney, the Executive Director of JISTV. Courtney Cole, CTD in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, with emphasis on the mining and engineering areas. Mr. Vivian Scully, CEO of Agro Invest, always good to see Vivian. Mr. Garnett Edmondson, the CEO of RADA, that means there are big things coming in the agricultural sector. Technocrats from both ministries, members of the media who are here, those who are listening to us online, on radio, overseas, or in Jamaica, another wonderful good morning to you. We have Cabinet this morning. We should all be in Cabinet. All the ministers should be there. So we're going to do this as quickly as we can, but we wanted to do it before Cabinet because we wanted to give you this good news. And today's a Monday morning right after Champs, where we saw some victories, and I chose my outfit for that to support Edwin Allen on the inside and Jamaica College on the outside. So it was intentional this morning, and congratulations to our children who did so wonderful over last week. And so I want to congratulate both schools and obviously every school that participated. It's a wonderful thing. We also have to commend those in the West. Our children from schools in the West, they did really well, and we're also happy because after that hurricane, there were a lot of questions about their ability to be at Champs, but they were there and they were competitive. So thank you to everybody that was involved in making Champs a success. And so we move straight into why we're here this morning. I'm going to do it different today. I'm going to invite both ministers to come. So Minister Matthew Samuda and Minister Floyd Green, both of you are going to come up and tell Jamaica why we brought them here on a Monday morning before Cabinet to give them some news. So please welcome both ministers.
Thank you, colleague Minister Dana Dixon. Wish to extend greetings as well to colleague Minister Floyd Green, who has joined us this morning. Allow me to acknowledge Permanent Secretary Wayne Robertson, indeed Chief Technical Directors, Director Generals, I see. Certainly three who have joined us this morning, and CTD, senior members of both the Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change, and indeed the Ministry of Agriculture. A lot has been made around the discussion on climate finance and indeed sustainability finance generally, especially in the wake of Hurricane Beryl. If one tracks the discussion in the public domain, the consciousness of the issues related to sustainability financing has been steadily increasing and would have certainly hit a crescendo post-Hurricane Melissa. And that is for good reason. Ultimately, every element of the triple planetary crisis is on full display in Jamaica. The UN Environment Programme lists the triple planetary crisis as pollution, the loss of biodiversity, and indeed climate change. And one could say that Jamaica is on the front lines of each of these challenges. Jamaica, however, does not sit by as a victim that is helpless. Jamaica engages its international partners in a very serious and structured manner. Jamaica has spent the last 10 years right-sizing its financial architecture, updating its regulatory environment to ensure that it is using best practice globally in how it approaches these situations. Climate change has been a major point of conversation post-Hurricane Melissa, and for good reason. With in excess of $12 billion of damage in a 48-hour period, or rather inflicted in a 48-hour period, it says to us clearly that the government must engage all of its partners locally, regionally, and internationally to ensure that we are able to access the resources necessary to build resilience in our economy and in our society. I also pause to acknowledge Ms. Anna Tuza, representative of the FAO, and this is reflective of the partnerships that we have indeed built and continue to work on through our varying initiatives. Approximately 5 years ago, the CCD and PIOJ, working with the Ministry of Agriculture, commenced the construct of a project to access significant funding for agriculture. You see, we acknowledged that climate change was going to be a problem a long time ago, and these things do indeed take time. At that stage, we would have identified that one of the major sources of funding, or financing rather, globally, available to small island developing states was indeed the Green Climate Fund. A project was developed. During that period, JISTV and indeed DBJ would have been accredited by the GCF as well and would have become implementing partners for many GCF projects, certainly locally. But during that period, we would have honed and refined the project, and certainly since Hurricane Melissa, put the final touches on it and would have made a submission to the GCF. We are happy to report that we were advised on Friday that the project was indeed approved. And this project is indeed intending to invest some $50 million into climate resilient agriculture. And this shows joined up government. And that's why we are here this morning. Now, it is important for those who are listening to understand that little over $40 million of this sum is indeed grant financing. And this represents not our first, second, or third financed project, certainly from our international partners, but the single largest project that we have engaged thus far by way of grant funding. So we're particularly happy for the support of the FAO, the great focus from Dr. Henry and his team, from Mr. Sweeney and his team in ensuring that this project was brought together in the format that showed sufficient climate additionality to be able to provide the support to Minister Green and his team. We know the damage that would have been done in every sector of the economy, but we know when the damage is done in the agriculture sector of the economy, it hurts a little more because it is one of the most inclusive parts of our economy. So we are here today to announce formally our partnership on this initiative, Minister Green, and to acknowledge that we've reached this critical milestone, but simultaneously to tell you that we are actively pursuing an additional $300 million of projects that are at varying stages of development. Now, these projects are pursued through other avenues, not solely GCF. We pursue projects through the Green Climate Fund. We pursue projects through the GEF, through the Climate Investment Fund. We pursue projects through the Adaptation Fund. And over the coming months, a number of these will have announcements that we certainly believe will redound to the benefit of Jamaicans everywhere. We've also been very clear that we have engaged the newly formed Loss and Damage Fund post-Hurricane Melissa, and I can report that Jamaica has made its first submission post-Hurricane Melissa in line with its drawing rights under the UNFCCC structure for the Loss and Damage Fund. We expect to hear exactly the volume of funds we'll be able to draw down in June of this year after the first board meeting of that fund. But with that said, today is indeed a moment that we believe we should pause and acknowledge the work of the technical team that would have raise the funds on behalf of Jamaican farmers. And I think it would be useful, Minister Green, for you to outline how these funds will benefit Jamaican farmers.
Thank you, Minister Samood, and just allow me to recognize Permanent Secretary, Chief Technical Directors, Head of the PIOJ, Head of JISTV, and of course, Anna, our Head of the FAO, and other partners who have joined us here today. I think Minister Samuda has created excellent background. Oftentimes when we speak about climate change, we sometimes feel like it's a big, distant issue. But it's not distant at all for our farmers and fishers. We're seeing it in longer droughts, we're seeing it in heavier rainfall, we're seeing it in crops that do not yield as much as they used to. And Hurricane Beryl and Hurricane Melissa again showed us the harsh reality that our farmers are the ones that face the brunt of this new climate reality. And as such, the government had decided years ago that in moving towards climate resilient financing, it would have to be targeted towards our agricultural sector to build sustainability and to ensure that we are more resilient. And this is even more important now when we reflect on the fact that Hurricane Beryl would have caused over $7 billion in losses to our agricultural sector. And that is followed by Hurricane Melissa that cost us over $32 billion in losses to our agricultural sector. And you pile that on some of our structural realities. We are a country, the majority of who are smallholder farmers, who are heavily dependent on rainfall, who operate oftentimes in hilly terrain, and as such vulnerable to soil erosion and land degradation. And as such, in building climate resilience, we had to take all of these factors into account. And I want to join with Minister Samuda in thanking the technical teams that have done a lot of work in pulling together a comprehensive program that will seek to address our climate vulnerabilities. So the Adapt Jamaica program is designed to tackle our systematic barriers to resilience in agriculture. We will focus on four main areas. Firstly, climate resilient agriculture and food loss and waste. We do lose about 30 to 40% of the food that we produce now in our agricultural ecosystem. The second area will focus on strengthening climate information services. The third area on policy and institutional strengthening. And the fourth on investment-ready financing solutions. And I will quickly just go into a little bit of these areas. One of the things that we did was to look at the parishes that would have suffered the most from these new climate realities. And as such, we've identified 6 parishes based on our historical data in relation to how much they have lost from these weather events over the last 2 decades. And those are Clarendon, Trelawney, Manchester, St. Anne, St. Catherine, and St. Elizabeth. Again, these areas combine high climate exposure, rural poverty, food insecurity, land degradation, and limited access to irrigation and financing. Importantly, these parishes are responsible for a significant share, in fact, about 70% of our domestic production is produced by these 6 parishes. So at the farm level, this project is designed to be practical, visible, and scalable. So we will look to develop model farms and farm clusters where we will deploy climate resilient solutions to show them work in real time, including things like solar-powered irrigation, reinforced greenhouses that are designed to withstand stronger storms, efficient water management systems such as drip irrigation, especially for our vulnerable farmers. We will have a strong training component and provide access to simple, affordable tools that are focused on rainwater harvesting and water-efficient technology. Importantly, we will design a climate information system that will tie directly into our farmers. So our farmers are better equipped to know when we are having these weather changes. It will provide timely, practical guidance on weather and crop conditions. At the same time, a portion of these funds will be routed through the Development Bank of Jamaica to ensure that farmers have greater access, especially smallholder farmers have greater access to capital to be able to invest in their agricultural enterprise. We'll focus on things like crop zoning, targeted inclusion strategies. We're going to be focusing on our women. We're going to be focusing on our youth to ensure that underserved groups have equitable access. We are going to be using our farmer field school to ensure that our farmers are trained in climate smart methodology. And we will roll that out throughout the 6 parishes that we've identified. Additionally, and I want to again commend the technical team, because seeing the challenges from Beryl and now Melissa, a component was crafted into the project to ensure that we could directly respond to the damage caused by Hurricane Melissa. And as such, we will be crafting some cash transfers. We will be looking to have households who will benefit from a cash for work program, and we are looking to develop a major irrigation system under this project. This project will bring forward at least 9 automatic weather stations, 35 rainfall loggers, and a national climate information system tailored to agriculture. I think all in all we can see that it is a comprehensive program to really build sustainability in our agricultural sector. Now, implementation will be done over the next 5 to 6 years. And I say that at the start, because normally when you hear the announcement, the farmers will think that tomorrow we will be able to get out there. But again, the first year is normally collecting your baselines to ensure identifying the communities that you will directly target. We will do that over the first year, and then roll out implementation year 2, 3, and 4, and use the last few years to ensure that we are monitoring, evaluating, and scaling our project. I close by saying this is how joined up government works. To look at where the resources are, and I want to commend the team at the Ministry of Water, Environment and Climate Change for driving the application process. I want to commend our international partners, the FAO, who have come on in a big way and did a lot of preliminary work with us at the Ministry of Agriculture. I want to commend my own technical teams. They oftentimes get a big beating, but CTD and RAD and AgroInvest, Jamaica 4-H, who is here as well, thank you. And JISTV and the PIOJ. Again, very strong technical teams who did a lot of work to bring us here. But again, this is just the start. Our hope is that we will have multiple engagements like this with myself and Minister Samuda, where the Ministry of Climate Change is doing what it does well, to mobilize the resources, and we will use those resources to transform our agricultural sector. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. It's very exciting news. $40 million of it being a grant. I was working it out on my calculator. It's several billion Jamaican dollars going towards our agricultural sector. Minister Samuda, I know you've been advocating a lot for Jamaica on the international stage in terms of climate change, and I know that you had a lot to do with this. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank Minister Green, because I know you've been advocating for the farmers nonstop. And so this is a part of your advocacy, and I want to congratulate you too. And as I sit there, I'm there thinking, wow, a big grant. What about education? Maybe we can get a climate Resilience Education Grant, Minister Samuda. I know you can make things happen. You've made it happen for Minister Green, so maybe I'll be next. And I'll do a press conference too. But up next, we're going to hear some more details. You heard a lot of agencies were involved in this, from the PIOJ to JISTV to RADA. I mean, it was a lot of government entities. And a lot of times we talk about the silos, but in this case, you're seeing joined up government at work. And so I want to invite Mr. Sweeney, the head of JISTV, who is going to be doing a lot of this implementation, to come and tell you some more.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Minister. Ministers, Permanent Secretary, FAO, colleagues present, members of the media. This is a great morning. This is a great morning. I love the name of the project, Adapt. Right? They say you have to adapt to survive. And all Jamaicans know the anxiety we felt when the storm was coming and food security. Global affairs in the world now has brought food security front and center. And this project has come at such an opportune moment that we can address some of the food security issues. Minister Samuda was clear with respect to the government's approach to how we will continue to access climate financing, and that approach includes having accredited entities like JISTV and the DBJ supporting the government's access to these resources. Minister Green spoke to the fact that the ministry itself, with all its agencies, have been aligned with a policy to develop more climate-resistant infrastructure in the country, as well as train farmers and develop farming techniques that will ensure that as we face more intense storms, as we face the effects of climate change, that we will be able to really have a way to adapt, not just as, if you want to say, consumers of food, but also the persons who have to provide the food. The FAO, of course, is the partner you would want to partner with in terms of bringing global best practices into Jamaica. And so it's a dream team. It's a dream team, and once again, I believe Jamaica is world leading with this type of grant. Now, specifically, as I'm here to do, over the next 5 to 6 years, we're going to be focusing, as Minister said, in the central parishes. Just to repeat, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, St. Anne, and Trelawney are going to be the parishes. We're going to focus on targeting especially all farmers, really. This project is estimated to benefit 700,000 farmers, all right, or persons who have, well, we know who people call themselves farmers, right? Or most of us are farmers in some way. But this project will target it. And why we say that? We say that because there will be new technology, there will be new transfer of knowledge, there will be new infrastructure, there will be new techniques right into the schools, Minister. We are going to target the schools and the youth in schools. And so this is what the project will do. And that project specifically will focus on 2 particular aspects for climate resilience. One is greenhouses. Greenhouses or sheltered infrastructure is something that we must do now, right? It allows better reliability in terms of productivity. And that's not to say we're moving away from open field farming, but we now have to have greenhouses and sheltered infrastructure at scale and in a way that it becomes a central part of Jamaica's approach to agriculture. And this is the project that is going to do it, right? This is a project that is going to bring it to scale. JISTV is proud. For the last 10 years, we have been working with the Ministry of Agriculture and its agencies in doing this type of things, but most of them have been pilots and funded at different points in time. This is the project that will scale greenhouse and sheltered infrastructure in the country over the next 5 to 6 years. The second part of it is the food loss and waste issue. That simply means when you have gluts, crops are wasted in the field. When you have storms, farmers can't reap because there's nowhere to take the crops. This is the project that's going to bring cold storage and to scale, right? Once again, we've been doing cold storage, we've been doing different types of infrastructure. This is the project that will do it. Now, if you just imagine, if you put in the greenhouses, the sheltered infrastructure, and you put in the cold storage, you are going to have to change the way people do things. You're going to have to change the way people think as farmers, right? Because now you may be farming to reap to storage, not reap to sell. Okay, that's a practical example. And so all our farmers across the country are going to want to know, how do we do this? How do we get involved in this? How do we operate more as a business? And all our if you want to say, the vendors and the persons who purchase the hotels also would like to know, what do you have in storage? What do you have in field? This is the project that is going to do that. The FAO will be bringing in pilot farms. I don't have to repeat all the things the minister said, but the pilot farms, for example, will allow persons to go and gain knowledge, sort of a center of excellence where you'll be able to gain knowledge, including students. Women and youth will be supported in their own establishment. And so all the things that come with developing, training, and building the capacity of our farmers to execute this. So finally, what I would say is, in terms of outcomes, we expect to enhance knowledge of climate resilient techniques and cold storage. We expect that the production systems in Jamaica are now going to change in terms of produce. And we also expect that we will now have greater resilience to what the environment will bring us, not only hurricanes, but that includes droughts. So these are three major outcomes that we expect from the program. And so with that said, I will stop here.
All right, thank you very much. And JISTV executes very well. And so I'm expecting this to be really well done with the rest of the implementing agencies from RADA and other entities in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mining and Fisheries. Okay, so we're going to go straight into the questions. So ministers and Mr. Sweeney, please get ready for questions from the media.
Good morning, everyone. We will begin with Mahiri Stewart from Nationwide News.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So my first question is in relation to a joke you just told about being a future sector that could benefit from something like this. Question to Minister Samuda, are there any other sectors in Jamaica that you've seen that you believe could also benefit from climate resilient projects such as this in the future?
Absolutely. Jamaica is on the front lines of the climate crisis, and every sector of the economy has been impacted. Every member of society has been impacted. You'd have heard Minister Green lament the impact on soil quality and the impact on pollination rates from the warming space. But certainly every school this morning that is in areas that are affected by water shortages are being affected by climate change. So whether it is making life harder for our farmers or making life harder for our school administrators, there is no sector that is immune to the impact of climate change. Jamaica is finalizing what's called its National Adaptation Plan, or its NAP, which is a requirement under our UNFCCC commitments that will clearly outline the steps the government intends to take to make itself climate resilient and make sure its people are indeed resilient to the challenges we face related to climate change. But yes, climate is having a disproportionate effect, certainly on our women, but as it was raised, on our children. Classrooms are warmer, and invariably, as we've seen where classrooms have been used for decades as shelters, there will have to be a very large focus on our education sector, where there'll have to be discussions, because as we know, Jamaicans don't necessarily take change particularly easily. Thank you.
All right.
And second question would be to Minister Green. I know that they're focusing on specific parishes over the past decade in terms of how they've been affected by climate change. But given the passage of Hurricane Melissa being so recent, there were some parishes that would have farmers that weren't necessarily in that group. Are they also going to benefit from this program?
So Well, I think we have to take into account this is just one of the many interventions that we have across the Ministry of Agriculture. And part of what we've been doing already under our READY program that we implement now with JISTV through World Bank loan funds is focusing on building the resilience across the entire country. So a lot of those funds have gone into community farming groups who have applied for loans to do things like processing plants in Hanover, to do honey, things of that nature. So in every parish, I think we can identify what are our areas of focus. What this project allows us to do, as we will have some dedicated funds around these 6 parishes, is then to look at the budget of the Ministry of Agriculture to see how we use that in the other areas to ensure that their vulnerabilities are also being dealt with. Right, so this is just one of those projects, but the principles that we will apply in these 6 parishes, we're applying right across the country. How do we ensure greater access to water? How do we do water harvesting like ponds? That is a program that we have now. In parishes like St. Mary, we are already expanding our irrigation network. In parishes like St. Thomas, we're expanding our irrigation network. So again, there are projects that are already going on in some of these parishes not mentioned here, and what you will see is a comprehensive, holistic approach to transform agriculture right across the country.
Right. We're on this side now.
Morning, everyone. I'm
Good morning.
Jamila Maitland from TVJ News. I know the representative from JISTV, Mr. Sweeney, spoke about what should happen the next year or so, but can we get a timeline as it relates to what happens in year 1, year 2, year 3, or general estimation? Because with disruption caused from Hurricane Melissa, I'm sure what is the level of readiness for the agricultural sector to ensure that the funds are used within these specific timelines? And then 2, I went to a press conference recently, and the latest data I got was that there was 1 RADA officer to about 5,000 farmers. With the targeted farm group, which is about 700,000, what is the capacity to ensure that the farmers are mobilized, sensitized to ensure that they receive the funds within the specified period? And if I can squeeze in one more, monitoring of funds has always been a source of contention, especially in the reports that we're seeing from the Auditor General, which is like 4 to 5 years afterwards. What are the internal controls to ensure that not only there is value for money, but the money is managed? We're not hearing any reports of corruption, anything like that. All right, those are my 3 for sorry.
All right, do you want to go ahead?
All 3?
No, you're not answering all 3. You're doing the first one in terms of timelines. And then on the RADA one, I think that Minister Green will take that one. And then in terms of the monitoring mechanism, Minister Samuda will take that one.
All right, thank you. What would happen in terms of an agreement with the GCF, for instance, is that we have to move next towards effectiveness, and that allows the government to receive the inflow. The agreement for the effectiveness of the loan is currently under review by the government. I anticipate that Cabinet should see that submission in April, in the month of April. Once Cabinet has given the directive, then we will move directly into starting to draw down the funds. The Minister spoke to, certainly in the wider context of the project, we are going to have to bring in strong technical expertise internationally to look at the lay of the land and also provide some advice through those consultancies, and that's going to be managed heavily on the FAO side. With respect to the JISTV side, we currently, as Minister Green also pointed out, under our READY program, we already have a cohort of farmers that have been identified, currently being funded under READY, but there's more farmers than money at this time. So this money will come at a time when we can hit the ground with persons who are waiting. And those persons now are currently in the wings being prepared so that as soon as we're able to put the resources on the ground, we will start with those farmers. So typically, I would say, to answer your question, in year 1, farmers will benefit. That's the short answer. Okay, in year 1, farmers will start to benefit, but you have to appreciate that in a 5-year program, you're going to climb up a curve. So as we get to years 2 and 3, you'll start to see it rise exponentially. But our targets certainly are for farmers to start seeing the benefits, including the women and the youth farmers. That's a special focus. They will have the receipt of benefits in year 1. Thank you.
All right, I'll follow up on some of what Mr. Sweeney has said and then answer your other question, Jamila, in relation to RADA and technical capacity. But definitely there are components of the program that we want to get out in year 1, especially those components that are tied to grants, those components that are tied to Hurricane Melissa recovery. I think we all appreciate that recovery is a process. We have done good so far, excellent, I must say. The farmers have responded extraordinarily well, and you see it every day when you go out to our marketplace in terms of how our production numbers have rebounded in tremendous fashion. But we have to keep that going, right? And we do appreciate that some farmers are still just coming back into the fold, so we have to keep that going. One of the good things about this project, and Mr. Sweeney alluded to it, a lot of what we see in this project is a scaling up of things we have already done. So because this was a base-up designed project, right, it's not that we are trying to implement things that we have tried and haven't worked, or we're trying for the first time. So we've been doing the farmer field schools, we've been doing the cold storage, we've been doing the greenhouses. But we also know that what we have been doing, we have not had the capacity to do it in the quantities that will create the transformation we want to see. This gives us that capacity. So again, those farmers, a lot of them are already there, already ready. Some of them have already gone through the training, but they do not have access to the facilities. So you may have farmers who've gone through, for example, greenhouse training, but do not yet have a greenhouse, right? So we're going to ensure that these interventions work in tandem with the other things that we are doing. And we are building greater capacity. And one of the things that we like under this model, and it's coming from the FAO model, is instead of trying to ensure that you reach to every single farmer, you do a pilot, a show and tell farm, a model farm in an area that other farmers can come and see and implement. So that is one of the things that we'll be doing under this project, and that is something that we think will go a far way. Our ratio of RADA officers to farmers is always something that has been a challenge for them to provide effective extension services. So we are doing 3 things in that regard. One, we have been working on the structure of RADA, and we do have under the structure of RADA some assistant extension officers that had not been mobilized over the last few years. So we are now employing assistant extension officers, especially in the areas where the ratio is significantly out of skew. And we've started to employ those officers already. Some of those are on the ground, and that is helping. So that is one. 2, we are going to the Ministry of Finance to say to them we need more extension officers. Right? And we do hope that that will find favor with the ministry, because we do need some more boots on the ground. But the biggest intervention is through technology, right? We will never be able to probably bring it down to the 200. So what we've done, we've developed a RADA mobile application, right, which brings extension services to your fingertip. So literally, our farmers are now able, and they can access this through the Android or the Play Store. They're now able, or the Apple Store. They're now able to literally in their field take a picture of a plant or an insect or something that they see that they can't comprehend, send that in real time, and an extension officer can respond without literally having to go to the farm. Right? Additionally, they can do things like schedule the visits of their extension officers. That makes it much easier for everybody in terms of the extension officer having a schedule and the farmer knowing the exact time that the extension officer will come, and not hearing that the extension officer came and the farmer wasn't there, and vice versa. So you can now do that using the mobile application. Plus, the mobile application has a whole host of videos to tell you how to plant, what to look out for. It provides extension services without having the officer right there. So I think the technology will help us. And when we do under this project, for example, the national information climate system that links directly to agriculture, we will then link that directly to the app so that the farmers can get that information on their phones. So we are using the technology, and let us appreciate all our farmers now have a smartphone, right? Almost all. If not all, very, very close. Now, a lot of them are still just using WhatsApp, right? And as such, part of what we do on the ground is to form those WhatsApp groups and send out information. But we also use direct text messaging, right? And we are seeing the younger farmers are taking up the app significantly. So we have to push the technology.
Just to note, Minister, related to the oversight question. It's a unique project when one considers the number of parties that are working together to achieve the stated goals. The GCF has a very strict monitoring mechanism related to its funds. The FAO has a very rigorous reporting mechanism as it relates to its project implementation. The PIOJ, JISTV are no strangers to international funds and to best practice in fiduciary oversight for foreign investment and certainly for local funds as well. And just to note, the PIOJ, the JISTV, the CCD have had no challenges implementing hundreds of millions of dollars of climate resilience projects across this country. Never been a challenge. And each of these projects are audited upon completion of the project for closeout with your donors. So even outside of your annual audits and other assessments, each project has to be audited by the agency that provides the funds. So this perhaps is even more multi-layered than any other project I can think of in terms of the number of oversight mechanisms that will be applied to it.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister. And I think those are all the questions we have, so you can get back to Cabinet very quickly. But as we close out today, it is Holy Week, and we do have some holidays that are coming up. But just a reminder, you know, as a Christian country, as the Prime Minister has articulated, this is a very important time for us. It's the most sacred time on the Christian calendar. It's a time of prayer. It's a time of reflection, a time to recall that Jesus died for our sins, and in his resurrection, that is where our salvation comes from. And so it's an important point. And I think for our children, please help me to get that word to them. I know some of them see it as just holiday and partying, but it's a deeply spiritual time. It's a time of prayer and reflection. And so as we close out on this Holy Week, on the Monday in Holy Week, I pray that you will be able to really reflect during this week on all that God has done for us. Anytime I go to a school, I tell the children, if you don't remember anything I tell you, just remember that God loves you. And he's there in good times and he's there in bad times. And that's what we're called to remember during this week. And so as we close, as always, may God bless this wonderful country, Jamaica land we love. Thank you.